Action Comics 1061, Jason Aaron writing with John Timms on art. So this is the start of this new Action Comics All-Stars thing they're doing this year, where there's going to be a new creative team every 3 issues, so they all get 3-issue arcs. Notably, the page count is higher than a standard single issue. It's not quite... It's basically like as if there was one backup, it gets that page count of where the backup would be. So it gets about 30-ish pages. So it's 3 slightly oversized issues, but not huge issues. So I guess it works out to be about 4.5 issues worth of page count by the time it's all done for the arc. But so this is a Bizarro story, which I was coming into kind of lukewarm, just because, you know.
I like Bizarro in small doses. I like when he's more of a nuisance than a threat, right? Because he's inherently silly, and I just feel like he's one of those Superman like rogues that doesn't mean bad, and Superman just has to talk to him and, you know, be his friend. So this alters that formula a whole lot.
Yeah, the funny thing for me was I was going in with kind of lukewarm expectations, but obviously Jason Aaron's a good writer, and and much like Batman Off-World, where I inherently aren't, I'm not as into the premise of that much. But once I started reading it, I'm like, you know what? He's still really good at actually crafting the story, so I'm kind of into it anyway. I was kind of expecting something similar from this, where I'm going in not necessarily being that enthusiastic, but it's probably going to be solid to read. And for the most part, it actually is. Like, I think the way he tells the story here, if anything, it does feel more like his early Thor run than anything else. The way he talks about this magical planet that Bizarro goes to. I think for me, though, I do really not like the ending because I don't like what it sets up. And part of it's because we're doing Beast World right now, DC. Jason, we've already got a big story going on where everyone's turning into something.
So you'd assume that these are going to be 3 standalone stories, right? Like, not 3, but each of these stories is kind of standalone, and they could have just like, you would think they could have swapped them around. This could have came out after Beast World.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I mean, I imagine that the later ones just aren't ready, so they didn't have the choice.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah. I didn't like where I don't.
Well, actually, no, Matt. The second one's Williamson, and it ties into Superman, so they couldn't have moved that. That has to be where it is.
God damn it, Williamson. Because again, but see, I also like, you know, the version of Bizarro I like isn't from a multiverse, right? He just, you know, through science and whatnot, through deviousness on Luthor's part, there's a square Earth.
He's basically, in some ways, he's like a earlier version of the Connor Kent Superboy, right? He's like, it's Lex trying to make his own Superman, effectively, gone wrong.
When you make him from a multiverse, and it changes that kind of dynamic, and we've had so much multiverse stuff going on, right? That adds a bit to the fatigue. But yeah, so the story starts off on that sorcerer world, right? Where it's, I remember learning about it from Legion, because one of the Legionnaires is from this, I'm trying, it's Xerox, right? Like the copier.
I was just going to make a photocopying joke, Matt. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's this planet of wizards, and, you know, and Aaron does do that, like you said, with Thor, sets it up with like this mythology that's baked in, and how, you know, they say that all the magic maybe had come from this planet, you know, across things. And it turns Bizarro into this threat because he shows up to, like, we're not quite sure what his plan is.
Well, he doesn't really have one. I mean, I think as we find out later, because he keeps saying that he's not lost, which means he is lost. So it seems like he's just. We find out later on that his square planet has disappeared, and he doesn't really know where to find it. But the basic big thing that happens here is that they shoot magic at him, but because he's the opposite of Superman, it actually supercharges them, and he wipes them out, right? And then we skip ahead 6 weeks to, you know, Metropolis. Superman's doing his thing. And Bizarro shows up in the sky. Superman tries to talk him down, but Bizarro slaps him and he sends him flying to Venus. Like, Superman lands in Venus.
And he's like, oh boy. And this is the type of scale stuff that I expect from Aaron, because this is the type of, you know, big time superhero things I'm used to reading from him, whether it was in Thor or the Avengers. Like and it happens in Batman Offworld too, just the sense of scale and scope, because not only Venus, but Superman and Bizarro end up fighting across the solar system.
Yeah, it goes past the sun, goes to Jupiter, goes to Saturn, and Pluto eventually, which technically is not a planet anymore. I don't know what we're calling it, but
it's a planetoid, or
planetoid. So we've got 8 planets and a planetoid. That's what we've got now. Okay.
Yeah, and part of the logic on there is that its moon's almost as big as it, right? And when they first discovered Pluto, they thought it was one of the is it Neptune? Whatever planet's next to it, they thought it was one of the moons. But then that moon had a moon, so they had to classify it as something. Anyways, long story, short. It doesn't matter in the scale of things, except that they were really far away. Which, again, scale and whatever. However, in Beast World, right, Superman and co. are off in far space, and Superman's wearing like a mask, right? So again, this is just some of the, it feels like Silver Age-y Bizarro stuff that he's knocking him across the solar system.
Yeah. It's it's a fun couple pages, right? I have no issues with the fight. Obviously, Bizarro's speak can get a little annoying. Which
I'm glad that he solves that a little bit.
Yeah, eventually he speaks backwards, not like Bizarro, but like Zatanna, and basically tells him to speak normal, tells himself to speak normal, and he does. He starts speaking regularly after that, which was a relief.
The format is normal, but the Bizarro speak, he's still saying me am, right? It's still in the Bizarro dialect, so.
But at least now he means up when he says up, as opposed to, the opposite.
Right, and when he says me, I'm so sad, he means he is sad, not that he's happy.
Yeah. So, he starts forming this big magical cloud above Metropolis, like he's doing something. There's like a helicopter reporting the news, try to follow the fight and see what's going on. We go to Bibble's bar at one point, and there's guys betting on how quickly Superman will solve the problem. But they're getting Lois and Jimmy are getting concerned because they're recognizing that he's super juiced with magic, and that actually might be a problem for Superman, and seemingly is. But whatever Bizarro is doing, he effectively makes like a big portal in the sky, which at the end of the story he gets sucked into. And Superman notes afterwards that it was like he was returning to himself again. So when he actually said that he was crying as he was being sucked in, knowing what it was going to do to the world, he was actually laughing because he was reverting back to being the opposite again.
And that was some of that Jason Aaron low-key horror that he'll throw into things of when after this happens, Superman he tells Lois that he could still hear Bizarro's crying, days later. It couldn't shake. And then when he has the realization that, oh, that wasn't crying, that was laughing, right? That gave me chills.
Yeah. I mean, Bizarro wanting to do this, if he even mean to specifically do this, and it feels like he probably did. He probably wanted to turn Earth into his world again.
Yep.
But yeah, the ending of the issue is that Lois and all the other humans in Metropolis all turn into Bizarro versions of themselves. And even Superman is laughing maniacally. He's different from the others. He's not just turned into a Bizarro, but he is acting out of the ordinary. So I have to admit, the ending did really deflate me, because I'm like, I just that story where everyone in Metropolis is turned into a Bizarro version of themselves just feels like we're doing something similar already elsewhere, and I'm enjoying the other thing. It's not like because the other thing's bad. I love Beast World, but
and recently in Williamson's, everybody got turned into a parasite.
That's right. We just did this in Superman.
So it was I'm a little bit upset because I like Bizarro. Like, he's not one of my favorites, but he's a character that I enjoy. But it's a very specific kind. So I remember there was a mini series that it was the DC YOU imprint that was kind of just like funner, lighter stories. That was a road trip with two guys and Bizarro across the country to try to get him. I forget exactly where they were going. And that was the type of Bizarro that I liked, because he's just kind of this lunk that means well, and they have to keep stopping him from doing heroics because it's just causing chaos everywhere they go. And so to have a more sinister Bizarro here, that it seems like that magic did something to him, because I feel like at the beginning when he's trashing the sorcerer's world and you get like this war cabinet of sorcerers to stop him, and it only supercharges him, I'm wondering if it was that something clicked and it made a more sinister Bizarro.
Yeah, it's kind of amusing at the start when they're saying, wait, we've got layers upon layers of magical protection, and you're telling me this idiot just punched his way through it. Like, that is a little funny.
And they're like, yes, that's exactly what he did.
It's just a little, I don't know, it's almost like everyone turning into something's becoming Superman's version of when, like, Gotham gets taken over by a villain.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
It's becoming Superman's version of that. So yeah, I mean, it's well crafted, it's well written, and the art's really solid throughout. Like, it's expressive. It manages that scope of, like, landing on all different planets, and all of it's really solid.
Yeah, and Tim draws a very classic looking Superman in Metropolis and Lois and Jimmy. Like, it fits very well. So to be like the first entry into the Superstars thing, I mean, I would just ask them why a Bizarro story to lead off with. Like, if I could ask Jason Aaron one thing, like, why is your first foray into Superman? Why did you want it to be Bizarro?
You must just like Bizarro, I guess.
Maybe, but yeah. I really do like the art. Like, Tim's when Superman at the end, when he gets, he's laughing and he's just slightly off. That looks really good, because it looks like Superman normally. But the more, it's one of those pictures, the more you look at it, the more messed up it gets. That's what it feels like. There's like an uncanny valley to it.
Yeah. No, the art's really solid. I think some of the layouts are quite good as well. It's just a shame that I don't love what the story concept is. I almost wonder if the reason why it's this Bizarro story that he's doing his first chance at really doing Superman, is because he knows it's only 3 issues, and it's like, oh, maybe he's got bigger ideas that he might one day do in a run, but this is only a 3-issue thing, so, do his, like, more self-contained Bizarro story, which is fair enough, but there's enough similarities to what else is going on in DC and what's happened recently in Superman that it just feels a little bit like a retread in some ways.
For sure, and it was a bit disappointing, too, because, again, I was looking forward to this, because it is... it is Jason Aaron. He's one of my favorite writers. He's writing my favorite character in Superman. And I kind of wanted something more of a bang out the gate, but maybe you're onto something, that there's something else that he's saving that big bang for.
And I don't even mean there's anything planned right now. I just mean that in his own sort of tank, if you will, that he's got more Superman ideas, but they're all bigger. They're all going to take, 12 issues or even 30 issues to do. And
he's got to wait for Williamson to stop telling his story so he can get over there.
Maybe that's possible. So, you know what? Action Comics sold seemingly better based on the digital rankings than it has been. So I guess this refresh of the All-Star did help. Yeah. So I can't deny that it's maybe achieved something, but
it's Superstar, because All-Star is its own thing in DC, right? Like, it has its own. But yeah, this is the.
But Action Comics All-Stars has alliteration. It sounds better.
True, but they're going with the super part of this, with the Superstar. So yeah,
I'll probably keep
calling
it
wrong. Action Comics All-Star, and I was like, but on the cover it says Superstar.
I'm going to level with you, Matt. I don't care.
Okay, I'm just, I just don't want you to look dumb. That's all. I just want you to get it right.
Oh, trust me, I'll make myself look proper dumb with something else. This is nothing. Yeah. Anyway, it's a perfectly subtle, from a technical perspective. It's very well crafted. It looks good. It reads well. Conceptually, I just don't love what it's ended up going. I'm still going to read the rest of it. It's only 2 more issues. I might as well. Yeah, of course. I'll keep reading Action unless it gets pretty bad. So, yeah. So I won't even rate this that low, because I think it is objectively pretty good. It's just, yeah. I'd like a different story. So, what you rate Action Comics 1061?
I'm gonna give this. It's a solid 8. out of 10.
Nah, I can't go higher than a 7.
Okay.
The ending and just the feeling of like this is what we're doing in the story is just too strong to go any higher than that. But craft is strong for sure. Like I'm not going to besmirch anything there.